Now, as you know, MicroStation provides 8 standard views for viewing the design, and you could in fact have 8 views open at once. Unlikely, but possible. Mostly you'll be working in the isometric view, with the occasional look at the remaining 3 orthographic views. And right now it's very important that you understand where these views are coming from and how MicroStation is seeing elements. Now here we have a diagram basically of, first of all, an isometric view of a step block. And this would typically be in view number 2, the isometric view. And here we see the standard auxiliary coordinates for MicroStation, which stem from that previous video, where we see the positive X, the positive Y, and the positive Z axes. Now the important point here is that MicroStation will see an isometric in this orientation, with the axes in this specific orientation, which means that MicroStation will look in this direction for the front view. This will be view number 3. It will look in this direction for the right view. This will be view number 4. And of course, looking from the top, which is view number 1. Now, this may be different from what you're used to in terms of viewing an object, but this is the way MicroStation looks at it, and you have to fully appreciate that fact. So what we see then in the 4 views is the standard isometric, as we can see. In view number 1, we would see the top view. In view number 2, we see the isometric, of course. In view number 3, we see the front view. And in view number 4, we see the right view. Now, this is the typical way things are organized. You can change this, of course. You can have any orientation display in any of the views if you wish. But I'm specifically interested in the 4 standard views at the moment. Now I'm going to go back to our new drawing with the 4 standard views. Here it is. And I want to talk about the ACS icons, the triad, which we see in each of our views. Now right now, the triad is in the center of each view and is orientated with the view itself, not with the design cube, which is why you see the same orientation in each of the 4 views. Now we need to change this, of course. It's not a lot of help to have the ACS triad telling us which way the screen is looking. We need to see which way we're looking at the elements in the design cube. So I'm going to make some changes to this. You should do the same thing. I'm going to go to the auxiliary coordinates dialog box. And I'm working right now in the isometric view. I've just clicked on that to activate it. I see the current coordinates in the box. The numbers here relate to the location of the triad in relation to 0, 0, 0. And as you would expect, the orientation is isometric. I'm going to change this. I'm going to make a new ACS, call it 3D. And I'm going to change the actual numbers here, 0 and 0 and 0. This means that I will be locating the ACS icon at 0, 0, 0, and I need to change the orientation. This is going to be top. Now this sounds a little odd to do this in an isometric view. It's orientating the icon in relation to the true design cube. So I'll make that top. Now I need to apply that to the isometric view, which is now selected, so I'll double click that. And we see the icon now. Notice that it moved in the view, meaning that it popped into the 0, 0, 0 location. And it's now displaying our regular 3-dimensional axes, positive X, positive Y, and positive Z. This makes a lot more sense in orientating our elements in an isometric view. I'm going to do the same for the other views. So let's click on the top and see what happens. Double click my new ACS. Now nothing happens other than the ACS moves to the bottom. Again, it's orientating to 0, 0. Let's try this in the front view. Double click. Notice now that we see quite a different orientation from the previous 2. I'll explain this in a second. Let's do the right view. Select the right view. Double click my new ACS. And that pops into place there. Okay, I'm going to dismiss this box. Now the top view makes sense. This is a top view and it's essentially looking in a 2D direction, if you will, even though it's in 3D. This makes a lot more sense because I'm seeing an isometric orientation. The front is the result of MicroStation looking in this direction at the design cube. And we see the positive Z-axis in blue. We see the positive X-axis running in this direction. And we see the positive Y running backwards from us. These icons are not particularly easy to discern quickly. You have to think about them. On this side of it, we'll be looking at the right side view, again, looking in this direction from MicroStation's point of view. We see the positive Y running off in that direction. We see the Z running towards us. We see again the Z-axis pointing vertically in the design cube. So this does give you some idea of the orientation of the views and of the elements. Now again, of course, we'll be taking a very close look at this later on. I want you, in the next video, to draw that step block for yourself to see how the views will display the step block.